All right, welcome back everybody to Altcoin Daily. My name is Aaron. Of course, the reason you subscribe to this channel is for our daily videos, keeping you informed on everything going on in the space today. And what I want to talk about is a recent interview with Robert Herjavec. This clip, which I'm about to show you, not only, of course, makes me bullish for the next couple years, this makes me bullish for the next decade. And I would think that if you own Bitcoin, you are setting yourself up for a very bright future. Because what this clip also shows me is just how early we are. You're going to see what I'm talking about. Because the point is, you know more about Bitcoin than some of the brightest, smartest, most capable people in the whole entire world. Case in point, billionaire investor, Shark Tank mogul, Robert Herjavec. So Robert Herjavec, many people do this. He's been making his rounds on the usual financial stations, talking about the usual financial topics. They bring people like him on to talk about coronavirus, the economy, the stock market, world events in general. What's interesting is that in this particular interview, Herjavec actually wasn't prompted to talk about Bitcoin. He was actually prompted to talk about gold. The host asks him, "Do you like gold?" Herjavec takes that opportunity to talk about Bitcoin and why he likes Bitcoin more than gold.
Stocks did horribly, but I know a lot of our fans would want to know, do you like gold? Because gold was way up yesterday. Do you hedge at all with precious metals?
I'm not a big believer in gold. I understand
Right.
the people's need to go to it. I just think on a long-term basis, base metals like that aren't going to be an economic indicator. I'm a big believer in Bitcoin electronic payments in the future, but I think we're a long way away from that. But in the short term,
So big believer
yes,
in
gold is a
Bitcoin.
hedge.
Would you be buying Bitcoin here?
I would be buying Bitcoin.
This price?
I think the price of Bitcoin on a long-term basis will quintuple, if that's a word. It's just, I forget who the analyst yesterday, but he said consumers over the long run always go to convenience. And Bitcoin is just convenience.
So when you hear talk, I've had people on here with crazy forecasts for Bitcoin. 100,000, I've heard 1 million. That doesn't sound crazy to you.
It doesn't sound crazy to me, but you have to disassociate the price of an individual type of Bitcoin. Because part of the challenge with Bitcoin is there is no one Bitcoin. You can buy different types of Bitcoin. And I think it's a bit of a fragmented industry. The minute you have a JP Morgan Chase or you have a large institutional company getting behind it, then that world will change.
Okay, so the three great things he said was that one, he said he'd be a buyer here. He said a $100,000 Bitcoin price isn't crazy to me. And he said, I think the price of Bitcoin will quintuple in the long term. And obviously this is really good. The bigger picture here is that this sentiment that he's expressing, this is something we'd rarely hear in Bitcoin's first decade of existence, especially from a notable person like Robert Herjavec. So very bullish that people like this keep coming on and talking about it. On the other hand, Robert Herjavec's crypto knowledge tapered off a little bit at the end there. If you've been subscribed to us for a while now, I know that you can see the shallowness in his knowledge base, in that he really doesn't know that much about Bitcoin. He really doesn't know what makes Bitcoin special. He doesn't know what makes Bitcoin different from any of these other Bitcoins on CoinMarketCap. And he talked about JP Morgan Chase. He said, we need a JP Morgan Chase to get behind Bitcoin before it really takes off. So he really doesn't know as much as he thinks he knows. But you know what? That excites me too, because it shows how early we are. Shows you that the interest is there, the knowledge seeking is there. Things are only going to become clearer in the future, and you're only going to see more of stuff like this. In other news, let's get to some of the top stories making headlines today. I want to talk about Square's Cash App. I want to talk about Bitstamp. I want to talk about Steven Seagal finally settling his charges with the SEC. I want to talk about CoinDesk and Tron's and Justin Sun's special relationship. This is just, I guess it's a conspiracy theory. I don't know. We'll get into that. Anyways, let's start right here. This is bullish. Square's Cash App reported $178 million in Bitcoin purchased for Q4 of 2019, bringing its 2019 total to $517 million worth of Bitcoin purchased. These are by regular people just like you and me, and you can see where the trend is growing. So Bitcoin sales grew 240% since Q4 of 2018. This is exactly what I would think I would be seeing if this stuff is going to catch on. In other news, this is good for infrastructure being built out around Bitcoin. Bitstamp has added full native SegWit support for their exchange. So customers can now create Bitcoin addresses in the new BEC32 format. What this means is that we're seeing exchanges and people who handle large amounts of transactions implementing SegWit, which is better for everybody. It's better for Bitcoin's network. And nobody has to do this since Bitcoin's backwards compatible and nobody's controlling what people do. But this is good. Every exchange should implement SegWit. A lot of them don't because either A, they have connections to Roger Ver and he wants to hurt Bitcoin, or they don't because I think they might make more in fees. But if the people cry loud enough, say, hey, we want SegWit support, exchanges do it, and props to you, Bitstamp. Good job. Let's dive into this one a little. It's always funny reading about Steven Seagal, or even it's funny reading about celebrities who promoted certain ICOs and seeing, what happens, where is this space going? So Steven Seagal has settled token touting charges with the SEC over his 2018 ICO promotion. So here's some of the details. The SEC said Seagal had not disclosed that he was offered a $250,000 in cash and $750,000 worth of B2G token in exchange for his services in promoting the B2G ICO. These had included social media posts calling on his followers and fans not to miss out on the token investment, according to the SEC. He also issued a press release titled Zen Master Steven Seagal has become the brand ambassador for Bitcoin 2 Gen. I mean, this sounds like a scam token, right? Seagal was further quoted in B2G press release saying he backed the ICO wholeheartedly. Quote, and this is a quote from the chief of the SEC. She says, these investors are entitled to know about payments Seagal received or were promised to endorse investments so they could decide whether maybe he was biased. Celebrities are not allowed to use their social media influence to tout securities without appropriately disclosing their compensation. I agree with this. This is just, whether it's law or not, it's just ethics, right? So finishing this up, I guess Steven Seagal has agreed to pay $157,000 in payments, and he is not officially admitting or denying any wrongdoing. So that's the settlement that, the agreement they made. He also agreed not to promote any securities for 3 years. So the fact that he promoted, which is probably a scam token, Bitcoin 2 Gen, the fact he promoted possible scam token, not as big of a deal to me as the fact that he didn't disclose that he was paid, because it is a big deal. But what's worse is if people don't know that these celebrities received some sort of compensation. So I think this is good, right? This is necessary. What else is there to say? Next story, and this really isn't a story, this is just speculation on my part. It's about an opinion piece that was just put on CoinDesk very recently, an opinion piece called In Defense of Justin Sun. And maybe at first glance, maybe they're just profiling a notable person in the space. Maybe, that's normal. That's maybe what they are supposed to do. Now, what's interesting, though, is that CoinDesk, which is basically the same thing as Consensus 2020, or Consensus is the big event in New York, the big conference. If you scroll down to their sponsors, they just added a sponsor recently. So you can see the tiers right here. Obviously, this 5 block is the top tier. The block sponsor is the bottom tier. 41 people are in the lowest tier. 1 person is in the highest tier. That's block. Look who just signed on in the second tier. Tron. And we also have BitGo. And, nothing wrong with being a sponsor of a conference. Nothing wrong with doing a profile on a notable person in the space. Just curious. I'm pretty sure to be a tier 2 sponsor, Tron had to donate, I think, a little bit less than $100,000. I don't know if it's correlated, just interesting. And that is it today, my friends. My name is Aaron at Altcoin Daily. If you got value in this video, give it a like. If you're new here, feel free to subscribe. You know, we do this kind of stuff every day. Me and my brother, we're not gurus, we're not financial experts. We're normal people, just like you. And the cool thing about this cryptocurrency space is that everyday average people can get involved and, get into this. And that's what people are doing. And you can see, we know more than Robert Herjavec, who's one of the best investors in the world. So get on board, learn about this stuff.